Well, hello and welcome everyone. This is our webinar on early convict indents, and welcome aboard everyone. We'll begin at the beginning and I'll show you how to find things. Now, convict indents are the term used to describe convict transportation records and refer to the indenture or agreement made with the ship's captain to transfer that convict. Now, the indenture books came with the ships and were handed to the colonial secretary in the colony. The colonial secretary would then make alphabetized copies for other use. And this is why, when you're looking through these records, you will sometimes find two copies. The indents between 1788 and 1801 have been scanned and can be searched online from your home, and will start now. Basic training for everyone, just follow my cursor because I will be demonstrating for you how to do things really effectively. I'm clicking the box at the bottom. We call that collection search, and it's below the Sydney Harbour Bridge image that you can see on the screen. Our first search is going to be for Thomas Barrett. And we're giving a moment to make sure it loads on your screens. And what you can see on the screens now is a list of results for anyone with the name Thomas Barrett. I call this white noise. It may be useful to your research, but if we're looking for something specific, it's information we don't need. So we need to filter. And there's more than one way to filter, and I'm going to use all of the ways today. The first one is to use a keyword. Now, indent is the word used in all of these index results. So if I search with Thomas Barrett indent, I will get a very filtered result. And as you can see, the first two are index entries, and the last two are our scanned images. So I'll click on the first one. This is the index entry. We can learn a lot from this page. I noticed that he was actually sentenced to go to America, which makes him kind of interesting. He was also the first person executed in the colony of New South Wales. Now I'm going to click on the image, this little thumbnail. Now, sometimes this can take a little while, not an overly long time, and that's because it's a high-res image, and therefore it takes a little bit of time to load, but the payoff is worth it. Now, at the top, we've got more than one tool. Thumbnails is not generally useful for what we're looking for because they're indexed to name, but the first one is, and I use it quite a lot. I'm going to click it once, twice, 3 times. It's the zoom button, and as you can see, we now see a little piece of the First Fleet. The names are at the top, you see there quite clearly. They were sentenced 7 years, and also where they were tried. Now I'm going to go down looking for our man. There he is, Thomas Barrett. I'll put him at the top of the screen, and we can see that he was sentenced to life, and he was tried at the Old Bailey on the 11th of September 1782. Now this is a really, really good example of an early indent in the sense that they really, at the beginning, they only wanted to know how long were they sentenced, and where were they tried to make it legal, because the whole thing is in a sense a legal document for how long the governor of the colony can keep them in as a convict. And so therefore, it's very simplistic. You will find in later times, they will get to much more complicated variants. But let's continue with our story today. I'm exiting out of those two searches. I'm going to search for a new name. And it's going to be Catherine Williams. Apologies for my typing. Catherine Williams. Again, we have white noise. If you look down the list there, you can see there's divorces and probates and all sorts of regular records that we have digitized. So we're going over to tweak my results, and I'm going to choose the first one. Now, something that I know and I'm sharing with you is that everything that we have that's an image in our collection that's available online will be listed as digitally available. And in this case, that's going to work for us. So I'm clicking it. We're down to 3 results. All of them are from the digitized convict indents digitized index. So they're almost certainly the same person. And I'm going to click on the first thumbnail or the first link. Either way will work. Takes us to the index result. I'm clicking on the thumbnail to bring up the image itself, and it comes up in our browser. I'm just pausing while I watch it come up on your screens. Now this is a little bit different. And so I'm going to zoom in twice on this one, I believe. Yep. And we're going to go down a little bit. This is the actual legal agreement made between the Crown and the ship's captain to bring the convicts to the colony. I found it very interesting to read. It's the King, Defender of the Faith, and so forth. I thought that was kind of interesting that he worded it that way. And down the bottom, you can see that it's an alphabetized list, which means that has been made in the colony. And you'll notice a lot of amendments. Now, this is one of the things about these indents, is they were working documents for the life of the convict in terms of being a convict. And in this case, I can see that 3 of those people were crossed out. Now, that means almost certainly they didn't come to the colony, and therefore they're not in the lists. It does still give you information that you might be able to use, but there's a story there to be found, and you'll need to search in probably UK records to work out why that happened. Another thing you'll notice on most of the images I'm showing you today is that they're a number count, almost certainly made in the Colonial Secretary's office, with a summary of how many convicts were brought out on that ship. We'll go out again. I'm going to choose a different name this time, James Hart. Again, white noise, so I'm going to the right. Digitally available would work, we know that, but I'm going down now to your third option, which is to click the actual index we're looking at, which is convict indents, digitized index 1788-01. Brings up 2 results. I'm clicking on the first one, going into the thumbnail, and bringing it forward enough so we can see it. Now, this is different. I'm choosing a different type of record each time on purpose so you can see that the broad spectrum. This is a series of Irish convicts that were transported for hosting a rebellion in Ireland. And it's literally been listed that way. Now, all the other records of the general convicts up to 1815, they don't give the crime. They give the sentence and they give where they were tried. Irish convicts were different. They always get the crime is actually listed with the convict indent. So in a sense, they are prisoners of war. United Irishman Rebellion, United Irishmen, of course, an Englishman from that time wouldn't say they're prisoners of war. They'd say they're criminals, but I digress. But if you look down the list, you can see other types of crimes: treasonable practices, desertion, United Irishmen, and so forth. Notice the healthy use of the ditto. It can be shortened from that as well. So that's been around with us for some time in terms of issues of today. And now I'm going out of that search. Now I'm going to go through a different search method this time, just to show you there's another way to go. You might prefer it. I'm going into online indexes, C for convicts. I seem to have a lockup issue. I'll just refresh. Yeah, it's working. C for convicts. This second index is the correct index. If you hit more about the index, you can get a little bit of description of the records and also abbreviations that you sometimes see on them. These mostly get used in later times from 1815, but still, I'm showing you where you can find information, so we'll move forward in that way. I'm going to search the index, and I'm going to search for the name James Bruce, who was a famous Australian convict. And notice it works very quickly. And the advantage of using the indexes online is that you don't get the white noise that you do get in the main search. For me, I'm quite comfortable filtering, so I can go either way. Just presenting this to you as one of your options. And the final thing I want to show you today is the big picture. And Research A to Z is something that we do a lot of work on as a group, and that we bring forward a lot of knowledge and experience based on the collection. So I'm going to show you what we have on this subject. I'm going to convicts, and notice the link here, search beyond the sentence beyond the seas, Australia's early convicts, going there. Now this gives you a larger picture than I can really demonstrate in a 10-minute webinar. So I'll just leave it with you as a bit of optional homework for you all. If you're curious about the big picture, this gives it to you. It describes records such as orders in council, which were, I haven't mentioned so far, which were the legal documents from the Crown to redirect ships from Africa to the colonies and so forth. It's got all the different indents that we have. So if you're more curious about the big picture, this is a good place where you're going to browse and then have a look at the records that you find. Now, I just glanced at the clock and I'm coming up to the 10-minute mark, but I hope you enjoyed my little demonstration today, the ins and outs of having a go with early convict indents. It's a very exciting thing that I can just come to work and then pop in and have a look at the first fleet records. And I guess if you're in the same boat, you can do that from home. So I wish you the best of luck. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I gave you some perspective on what you might find.